The war ended 6 years ago, but for Captain Lyra Kale, the silence of peace was deafening. The once captain of the Terran Vanguard now lived in a quiet zone on the ruined moon of Ido 3, surrounded by jagged peaks of ice glass and rusted wreckage from orbital debris. Her only companions were the birds that had adapted to the irradiated winds, and the shadows of ghosts she couldn't forget. The war against the Zerati Collective had taken everything. Her fleet, her command, and above all, the man she'd loved, Commander Orion Vance. His ship had been vaporized in the last stand over Vargon Prime. There were no survivors. She'd read the report. She'd screamed, cried, mourned. And eventually learned to stop bleeding every time she heard his name. Until the strange transmission came. It was embedded in an old Zerati distress beacon discovered by salvagers drifting near the burnt belt. The signal was broken, corrupted, but it had a human voice. A voice she would recognize anywhere. "Lyra, if this reaches you, I'm still here." Her hands trembled as she replayed it, over and over, until she was sure. It was him. It was Orion. Except he was dead. Wasn't he? Against every warning, against all reason, Lyra left her exile behind and took the battered Silence Runner, her old stealth skiff, straight into the belt. Middle. Navigating the burnt belt was a death sentence to most pilots. Centuries of slagged hulls, mine fragments, and drifting weaponized debris spun in chaotic orbit. But Lyra was no ordinary pilot. With her neural implant reactivated and fingers gripping the flight yoke like a dance partner, she wove between death like she'd never stopped. The beacon pulsed again. Closer now. Coordinates matched a derelict structure nestled inside the husk of an old Zerati juggernaut. The ship's hull, once obsidian and sleek, was now broken open like a cracked tomb. Lyra maneuvered inside, adrenaline masking the voice in her mind that still screamed, "This is madness." The internal gravity was dead. Only emergency lights flickered dimly as she floated through dark corridors filled with alien glyphs and shattered panels. Her flashlight's beam finally landed on something out of place, an old Terran hardsuit, leaning against a wall like a forgotten statue. Her breath caught. It was the Wraith-class Vanguard armor. Standard issue, yes, but uniquely modified. Burnished steel plating with the sigil of the Vargon Wolves. Orion's unit. Her heart thundered as she drifted closer. The suit was upright, sealed. Its visor mirrored back her reflection. Was this a corpse? A ghost? A trap? Orion! Her voice cracked. The helmet systems flickered. Slower. Then the visor hissed open with a gentle exhale of gas. And behind the mask was a face she thought she'd lost forever. Bill. Guard. Weathered by time and agony. But unmistakably Orion Vance. He opened his eyes. "Lyra." She reached out, but her glove shook violently. "You're alive. You're alive." His smile was weak. "Barely. They did something to me. The Zerati. I don't know how long it's been. My memory pieces are missing." She activated her comlink. "We're getting out of here. I'm taking you home." But the relief was short-lived. The shadows behind them stirred. "They didn't let me go," Orion rasped. "They let me lead you here." From the dark emerged figures, tall biomechanical constructs with pulsing veins of blue fire and segmented faces. Zerati ascendants. Their new form. The next evolution of the enemy humanity thought extinct. Lyra drew her pulse rifle, firing instinctively. Bolts screamed through the corridor, felling the first construct. Orion, weakened but wired to kill, yanked a blade from the wall and followed her lead. The corridor lit up with fire and fury, just like old times. Together they ran, fought, stumbled, survived. As they finally reached the Silence Runner, Lyra initiated full engines while Orion collapsed into the co-pilot's seat. Breathless, she looked at him. "Why would they let you go?" He stared ahead, jaw clenched. "Because I have something they want." She saw it then, a strange black lattice embedded in his neck. Glowing. "Alien. It's a symbiont," he explained. "They gave it to me. Or fused it with me. They needed a way to access the Terran core network. Fought it. For years I fought it. But they got into my head. Eventually, I only remembered you." Lyra was silent for a long moment. Then, "We can cut it out." He shook his head. "No. It's in my brainstem. But we can use it." "Use it?" Orion looked up. "We fake a full surrender. Let them think I've returned with the data they wanted. But when they open the gate, we wipe them out. You and me." She hesitated. The war was over. Earth had signed peace. But if the Zerati were evolving in the shadows? "You're not the same man I lost," she whispered. He reached for her hand, metal fingers brushing hers. "Neither are you." Ending. The plan was madness, but it worked. They returned to Terran Command under false clearance codes. Lyra, now a rogue, triggered an emergency review, presenting Orion and his evidence to the one admiral she still trusted, Vice Admiral Chen. In secrecy, Earth's Deep Command authorized a strike team, a surgical, deniable mission, and Lyra led it. Back into the burnt belt. Back to the hollow grave of the Zerati juggernaut. The Ascendants welcomed Orion like a prodigal tool. They opened the digital gates, lowered their firewalls, awaited their reward, and were met with annihilation. As pulse bombs tore through their hive code and Terran commandos swept through corridors, Lyra and Orion made their way to the core. Inside the chamber, the Ascendant Queen, a being of molten logic and grotesque beauty, rose to face them. "You were made perfect, Orion Vance," she said. "Why choose death?" He smiled. "Because she remembered who I was, even when I didn't." And he triggered the core breach. They barely made it to the Silence Runner before the hive imploded, collapsing into a singularity that consumed the entire structure. Later, orbiting safe aboard a Terran frigate, Lyra sat beside Orion in the infirmary. The symbiont was dying, severed from the source. "I've got maybe a few months," he said quietly. "Maybe a year." She didn't cry. Not this time. Instead, she took his hand and said, "Then we make every day count." Outside the viewport, the stars drifted by, cold, ancient, watching. But in that moment, two souls, broken and reforged, had found each other again. Not in war, not in vengeance, but in the face beneath the mask.